Resiliency was a really big part of the last couple of months that we had. One of the things that we would do is in our morning announcements, we did a positive affirmation, and it was, I'm going to push through. And it would talk about what if things are too hard? Well, I'm still going to push through. But what if I'm too young? That's not true. You're not too young. You can be resilient. What if I'm not strong enough? No, you are strong enough. You can be resilient. Those are just some parts of our positive affirmation that we know that resiliency and pushing through the difficult times is important. We also know that as we are being resilient, that it's really important to communicate how we feel. We are very much a trauma skilled school. And I was proud that our school got certified this past February in the middle of all the uncertainty of possible school closures, that we were able to be certified for our work over the last 2 years.
This is the Engaging Leadership Show, where we uncover the stories and strategies behind successful educational leadership. In today's episode, we're going to talk about how to lead during extremely challenging and uncertain times where there is an existential threat to the people and the organization that you're leading. How to handle that on your own, and how do you continue to inspire and motivate people around you to stay the course and to hang in there. We also managed to sneak in some references to Wicked. All this and more on the Engaging Leadership Show. Stay tuned and keep listening. Today's guest has spent 9 years as an administrator. She's currently heading up a school that was named after a 9/11 hero. And recently, they've gone through the trauma of going all the way up to facing possible closure and to talking about that experience. It's a really great privilege to have in our studios today Michelle Quilantang. She's the principal of Captain Jason M. Dahl Elementary School in San Jose, California. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here and to talk about some of the experiences that I've had as a site leader over the past couple of months.
So tell us a little bit more about Dahl Elementary. What's the school like? How's the community like?
Captain Jason M. Dahl Elementary School is in the east side of San Jose, California. We're in the east side of San Jose, and we are in the middle of a couple of different other school district areas in San Jose. The school itself is right underneath the flight path. One of the things that we see on just a daily basis is we see planes flying overhead. And on a sunny day, it's really great to see. You have a clear view. You see the planes flying overhead. And then the students will come up to me sometimes and they'll ask about Captain Dahl, because for them, the airplanes that they see are a symbol of Captain Dahl and his legacy. It's always a remembrance of Captain Jason M. Dahl. He was a student who went to our very school when it was called Hillsdale Elementary School. We even have some of his artifacts, like his report card, his pilot's hat, and things like that in our front office. Children are fascinated by his life because his story is one that I feel really fits like mission and vision of our school. His story is about how, as a student, he wanted to be a pilot. Even at a young age, he was able to study and eventually earn his pilot's license and become a pilot. So he made his dreams come true. When I came to Dahl, one of the things was that we were on distance learning, and I wanted to have this symbol above me saying dream big. I want our students to dream big. We do a lot of work in terms of having our students have growth mindset. We work on having our students be able to be an active part of their school community through student leadership opportunities. And we really help our students. Part of our mission and vision is that they can be active citizens in our school community and be able to achieve their personal best. That is a part of some of the things that we do in our day-to-day and our school year planning, is how we can help give our students opportunities so that they can meet their life goals as well too, which is part of our whole mission and vision.
That's amazing to hear. And it's such an inspiring story for Captain Dahl and the legacy that the story and the legend for all of these kids, generations after generation. The other thing that I think he's left behind is that sense of resilience. And talking about resilience as a school and role modeling that as a leader. That must be really tough, especially recently, your school was up for potential closure, and that must have created so much uncertainty, communities, the staff, within the kids. Talk through that experience.
The experience was a very long one because right before our December break was when we first found out that we were one of the potential schools identified for possible closure. Not officially on the list for closure, but just a possible school identified. Pretty much from December all the way until close to the end of February, there was a lot of time where, as a leader, I had to really make sure that I was an active listener. We had many people, whether it was students, families, staff members, even roving staff members who only visit our site from time to time. Everyone just wanted to hear how is the school doing and what we can do to support them. During that time, it was really about being there and listening and letting our school community know that even if it was decided that we were going to close, that we would be there until the end of the school year, until June 13th, that last day. And that the things that we would do would still continue on, that we would keep the traditions that we have every year. Like every spring, we do a parent volunteer appreciation event, we do an annual fun run to promote fitness, we do various traditions every spring, and so we wanted our families and our students to know that those were still gonna stay. We also wanted them to know that we honor and value all the work that they've done, particularly our students, because at one point, there was discussions amongst the board and amongst the committee advisory for the board about if 6th grade should stay at our site. Some of our 5th graders would come up to us and be like, "What's gonna happen if we don't have 6th grade here next year?" And they're very resilient, so that's a great word to use. They were so resilient because I would tell them, "We are going to honor and celebrate you. We know that you've been here since kindergarten, so we know that it would be hard, but you are gonna be celebrated." As students do, they're like, "Oh, okay." They felt it, that there was that connection that we appreciate them and that if it was time for them to transition over to the middle school, that we would still celebrate all the work that they've done and their achievements. Resiliency was a really big part of the last couple of months that we had. One of the things that we would do is in our morning announcements, we did a positive affirmation and it was, "I'm going to push through." And it would talk about what if things are too hard? I'm still going to push through. But what if I'm too young? That's not true. You're not too young. You can be resilient. What if I'm not strong enough? No, you are strong enough. You can be resilient. Those are just some parts of our positive affirmation that we know that resiliency and pushing through the difficult times is important. We also know that as we are being resilient, that it's really important to communicate how we feel. We all are very much a trauma skilled school. And I was proud that our school got certified this past February in the middle of all the uncertainty of possible school closures, that we were able to be certified for our work over the last 2 years. Coming back from COVID, we know that students missed out on pivotal key years of their schooling where they maybe didn't have the socialization time that they would have had. They did not have the opportunity to have peer interaction and problem solve. We really worked with our trauma skilled schools coach on being able to have a plan that supports our student needs, plans that focus on how to have students feel like they belong at school. We celebrate their accomplishments and achievements. We have autonomy doing particular student leadership opportunities and parent engagement groups. So, really focusing on how school wide we want our community to continue and flourish and thrive post COVID and even during the times of possible school closures. So, that resiliency was a big part of the work that we've done. And as we've gone through the last couple of weeks, we were actually, in a positive way, recruited our students. How do they feel about their resiliency and their own self efficacy? So we had a contest where we had students write their own positive affirmations. And I get emotional thinking about it because they were so good. We had some second and third graders, and they wrote great statements. They wrote things about shining bright, which is our school theme this year, that despite whatever circumstances are going on, we're going to shine bright. They wrote about how they are confident, that they are problem solvers. They help people if they see somebody in need. And so the fact that our students were able to write this during a time when our families were rallying positively to keep our school open, during a time when students would go with their families to board meetings in the evening and spend 2 to 3 hours hearing public comments, hearing the different board members talk about the school closures, having our students be able to write about those experiences and still know how important it is to push through difficult times was just very touching.
That's really amazing to hear and so inspiring. Just listening to you talk, as a leader, your role was to bring stability, to remind everybody of the rituals and the routines that they were still going to be participating in spite of the potential closure. The other thing that it sounds like you did really well was to be able to hold space for all of the kids and the family members that had concerns and were worried about things. And that positive affirmation that you give on a daily basis, and that the kids themselves have internalized and started to sound like really solid examples of building resilience in the kids, which is ultimately going to set them up for success in life. But when you think about all of this, did you at any time feel as a leader that you were very alone? Because it's hard to hold all of this, and who holds it for you when you're a charity leader?
I feel fortunate because previously I worked at a one school district where I was the only leader by myself. So coming into this district, I have a bunch of colleagues, other principals, some of them who were going into the same exact experience that I was going through. And so I really utilized that as, hey, how are you doing? So I would check in with them and they would check in with me. Being able to have that network of other leaders to see how they're doing and to talk about, hey, if this happens after the board meeting, how can we plan to keep our community stable? How can we plan to keep our community informed? How can we plan to be there for our students? Having that group of other administrators has been great. But hands down, I think the one thing that helped me feel like I wasn't alone as a leader in this was my school staff. We have been together for the last 5 years. And coming back from COVID, of course, was a challenge. Now, facing this new challenge about possible school closures was definitely something that came very naturally and organically. We really come together, whether it's both in informal settings where there's a break and some teachers just want to talk, or to our staff meetings where we focused on having everybody be informed and know what are some things that they can do during the time of this potential uncertainty. It really felt like we were all in it together, like we are a team. We shine bright together. Having that community of staff, we were able to really listen to one another. Even though I may have had conversations with one person and someone else wanted to talk about the same thing, I still gave that listening ear to really just listen because I know that this is part of the process, part of the experience that, as you had mentioned earlier, can be traumatic. Being there and having someone to listen to really helped everyone be able to really come together during this time. Our families as well too. Being a district staff member, I am in a certain position because, of course, every principal, every school site wants to remain open. My role as the site administrator was really to just let our families know. So when we would have our monthly coffee meetings, they would want to ask, hey, what's happening? So the time of school closures, when there was all that uncertainty, our families really rallied together and they did a lot of work in terms of getting the word out because we had a couple of different interviews featured in local Bay Area news. One of the mornings, our families planned a peaceful rally outside of school where even Captain Jason M. Dahl's sister was able to come and be interviewed by the media. Our students participated in it. And they all came together and we had people dressed up in our panda costume because that's our mascot. We had posters and signs, and our students would be there saying, "Si se puede, keep our school open. Yes, we can do this." They were able to do that, and then the bell rang and they went to school. They were able to know that, yes, we're in uncertain times, but we're here for our learning. Our families were really supportive in that way. And one of our teachers, she would always say, it's such a beautiful thing. And I would agree with her that the way our community came together during this time of uncertainty was really amazing and wonderful. And we know that whatever decision that the school board made, at our site, specifically our school, let their voices be heard. The main thing is having your voice heard during a time of uncertainty is so important. And so our voices were heard. And if we hadn't said anything, I think there would be a lot of regret. So I was just happy that our community was able to really just come together and be there for one another and keeping them in mind. It's, yeah, we still have school, so we're gonna do a peaceful rally, and then we're gonna go to school. Or, yeah, we might be tired the next morning after being at a board meeting, but we were there and we were present. When I think about this time of closures, it was being present, being able to listen, and being there for one another. Those were things that I think glued us as together as a site.
And we were talking before this, and one of the things that struck me was that as a leader, you're no stranger to dealing with challenging times. In fact, on the very first day of being a principal, something happened. You dealt with that with the team that at that time wasn't as familiar with you. What was that experience like?
Actually, the team at that previous school district, I was a teacher there. I was the vice principal and the instructional coach. So we did have a built-in level of community. But being my first role as a principal and my very first day and having to deal with the death of two students at a nearby mobile home park was very devastating. I remember that night I got about 3 hours of sleep. And I'm a person who normally functions on more than 3 hours of sleep. But again, I think of ties to this most recent experience and that first experience of dealing with a traumatic situation. And it was texting. Even though we weren't on the phone, we were texting. So staff members would be texting me that evening, talking about how can we be there for the family of the students who had passed away. So we had made some plans on what we were going to do to support their families. We thought about the students who would be starting their first days of school without their classmates. What could we do to support them? We worked with seeing, can we get resources such as the local Bill Wilson Center to help come and talk to our staff to help them process their feelings because it was a K through 8 school. And so a lot of the teachers have been there for a very long time. And so they knew the kids from when they were kindergarten. And I believe they were close to being around fifth grade by then. So there have been so many built in relationships. The staff was understandably sad. It was really about how do we lean on each other. And so I remember there were multiple text strings about, hey, how are you doing? What can we do? And making plans for our next steps. For a new principal, that was not what you expect for your first staff meeting. You expect to be nervous because it's your first time standing up in front of this group as a different role. But when faced with times of challenge, you pretty much have to just step into the role. There is no time to overthink. It's really about being there and I think of as principals, sometimes we get into emergency situations. You have to evacuate your school, for example, unexpectedly because there's a gas leak. We had that one time as well, too. And so pretty much I think about like first responders. You jump into the role and what you have to do. You first make sure and think, is everyone physically safe? And if they're not, what do we do to make sure they're physically safe? Is everyone emotionally safe? And if they're not, what do we do to help them emotionally feel safe in those circumstances? We think about if they're in the event of a school evacuation, how do we inform families? When I think about those types of experiences, it's about being there for the community. And one of the things that I like to pride myself on is my communication with our families. I try to always make sure that a week doesn't go by where they don't hear from me. So every week there is a message like, hey, we have a great week coming up. We have a book fair, or we have a school event. Or, hey, families, there might not be events this week, but please come to school on time so we can continue with our learning. So, communication to me as a leader is always key. And when times of crisis or challenging events, the communication also has to be there. The communication has to be very clear and really intentionally thought out. I know that in some of these experiences that I've had, where they have been things that have really, as a leader, challenge you, that I would think about and plan out. How do I want to say this and what do I want to say? Because being a site leader, everybody does really think very carefully about the words that you say. And we know that our words have impact. As a leader, I have to think about what I am saying and how am I communicating it. And even if I don't feel calm on the inside, I make sure that I show it on the outside because something that helps those who that you're working with. In this most recent time of closures, there were times where I would be processing and have to do my morning run and just thinking about everything that's been happening. And it really made me reflect a lot. You can't go through these challenging times without having a good amount of reflection. And so I know that was one part of my regular routine was just reflecting on what I am doing as a leader, how am I communicating, and how am I being there for my school community.
How do you think you were prepared now that you've gone through several crucible moments as a leader? Do you think anyone can be adequately prepared? You mentioned kind of just jumping in and having to do the job, which I think is true for most leaders. But do you think that there were opportunities that you had that helped you prepare for this, or do you feel like a business preparation in the job and you're learning as you go?
My whole career, even as a leader, started when I was very young. I had a lot of student leadership opportunities. I was a student athlete, so I played basketball, and you have to make those very quick split-second decisions to see if it has a positive impact. You're throwing the ball to your teammate. Will it make it into the basket? I've had experiences as a new teacher. I was very fortunate to have some great mentors. And in my like second year of teaching, I always remember this. My principal, he asked me, "What are your future career plans?" And I hadn't really thought about it because in your second year of teaching, you're like, I survived the first year. I'm happy about that and really ready to refine my craft as a teacher. When he said that, I feel like I get a lot of experiences where you just have to jump in. In my second year as a teacher, the principal had me do the morning announcements in front of the entire school. And back then, even when I was younger, I was still a very shy person. So going up in front of 4 or 500 students and their parents and doing the Pledge of Allegiance and doing the school pledge was an experience that was really great for community building and really just helped me develop being able to speak in front of a big group. I think that a lot of times the experiences that you have when you're younger help really develop the type of leader that you'll become as an adult. And so that's what I tell my student leaders. As a principal, I still do the adjunct duties that a lot of our teachers do. I have done our student leadership team in years past. And the last couple of years, I focused on safety patrol. And I would tell the safety patrol students, do you know that I was safety patrol captain when I was your age? So I really let them know, hey, the leadership skills that you're developing right now can impact you, that you will use these skills throughout your life. And you may be a school principal someday, or you may, whatever dream it is that you have, you can make it happen by developing in these skills. So, working with our students on building up their self efficacy, believing in themselves is really important. Those younger experiences that I've had, I'm in my 20th year of being an educator right now, have really helped develop the administrator that I am. I know that being very much aware of your craft, both as a teacher and an administrator, are really important. And so for me, of course, it's making sure that as a principal, your school site safety plan, your single plan for student achievement, that you know those things, but also continuing to get more information about educational research to support student learning. Currently, I am a student at the USC Rossier School of Education, where I am studying for my doctorate for K-12 leadership in urban school settings. I'm about close to being done with my first year, and I know that professional development has been very integral to who I am becoming as a leader. helping me focus on equity for the students of the school community that I work with. And I've been very fortunate to have a lot of good professional development opportunities that have helped lead me to get my doctorate. Previously, I was at the UCLA Women's School Leadership Academy, and that opportunity of networking and working with other female leaders really helped me decide that I do want to become a doctor in education. And so that's a goal that I look forward to in a couple of years. I use that resiliency that we talked about earlier. As a principal, you get a lot of late days, and you then have to go and spend your weekend studying, doing research projects, and working with groups. In fact, after this today, in a couple of hours, I have to present about gender in society with my group. We'll be presenting in front of our group later on this evening. So today is all a day about really sharing the experiences that I've had and my knowledge. So definitely being as a leader, really being informed of culturally responsive educational teaching practices and having that professional development has been key for me as well.
What keeps you motivated? It sounds like there's so many things going on for you. Obviously, building that resilience from your younger days today has been consistent. The other thing that I'm hearing that's really consistent is that you're constantly moving forward. Like, what drives that for you?
I think for me, what drives that resiliency and that ability to want to move forward is thinking about my family and the experiences that I had as a child, and how my grandmother was a custodian at the San Francisco Juvenile Detention Center. She eventually worked her way up to being a manager. But when her custodian days were happening, she would sometimes take me after school, and she would tell me about, while she was doing her work, she would tell me about why I need to work so hard in school to help make sure that my dreams are able to come true. So I've always kept her lessons to really heart. It really had an impact. Actually, I think about it now and I talk about me studying on the weekends. My grandma would take me to houses that she would clean on the weekends. Just really seeing that an adult model for you about how you push through. Even though you may have difficult times, that ability to push through and keep your goals in mind is very important. In education, we talk about our North Star, like the reason why your goal and why you keep doing the work that you do. And for me, I think about my students because I know that some of our students have had similar experiences that I've had as a child, having adverse childhood experiences. And we're able to push forward and make our goals happen. And so for me, I value the opportunity and I'm honored to have that opportunity to be a role model for our students to show them that, hey, I had experiences as a child and I grew up to help make my goal come true. Captain Dahl was able to make his goal come true as well too. And so you can make your goal come true. And so I think back to some of the more touching moments that I've had with my students, where if a student has to move away or they're very sad by something, we're able to relate on a similar level, that where they're struggling right now, that I've been there too, and that they can make their goals happen even if they're struggling right now. So I think that's part of the reason about why I continue to push forward and do the work that I do, because I truly believe that everyone can make their dreams come true. That let's dream big. Let's think about the biggest dream that you can do. I'm a big fan of Wicked, so I think about defying gravity and really just the song, the words, and the lyrics. It's like you can make things happen if you are able to have that perseverance and that persistency. So, those are some things that I really think about when I reflect on my journey as a leader.
And when you think about where you are today, we started the episode talking about Jason M. Dahl Elementary School facing possible closure. Over just the past couple of weeks, that has resolved itself almost, and you're now facing a new future for the school. What happened? And tell us what's next for the school.
Basically, the decision was that 3 schools in our district would close, but that my school was not one of the schools that would close. We were able to be kept open for next school year. And so that was something that we continue to move forward. One of the things that I always have said to my staff during that time was one day at a time, one step at a time. Now that we're in the spring, the decisions for school closures have already been made, and we know that we're going to be open next year. The plan moving forward is really great plans. We have some wonderful things already in place. This past weekend, I was at a symposium in Oakland with some of my staff, and we started planning already some wonderful things that we're going to do. Going back to earlier when I talked about the principal having me as a teacher do morning announcements in front of everyone, we're bringing that back because COVID kind of took that kind of community builder away. We already have some plans that we're thinking about in terms of rolling out for next school year and looking at community building. We're going to also look about how we can continue to strengthen the support that we provide to our families. Actually, next week, I'm really looking forward to a presentation that we're having on restorative practices with our families so that families can also know the strategies we use at school so that they want to, if they want to, incorporate that at home. I'm really looking forward to the fact that we will have another fall festival, that we will have another winter event, that we will be able to continue the work that we have been doing, but also to keep in mind that we know that as a school site, we are there together and we value the time that we have. I'm really looking forward to some of the plans that we preliminarily started in planning for next school year.
It's such a happy ending for a very difficult season for you, the staff, the community, the families, and the kids, especially. I'm glad to hear that. And, if you had one piece of advice that you would like to give to another leader in education who might be going through challenging times or difficult times, how would you advise them to hang in there?
That is a very big question. So I'll try to take it part by part. So, if a leader's going through a difficult time, there is a saying about how if you're on a plane and it's in an emergency situation, that you put your life mask on first. And so, as a leader, you want to think about what are those self care strategies that are your life mask? What are those things that really help you when you are going through a difficult time? And so for me, having the support of my family has been very important. So my husband and my sons have always been active listeners. And so that's been helpful to be able to just have those around me listen when I'm having a struggle, a challenge. The other thing that I mentioned was I love Wicked, and so listening to Defying Gravity while I'm running in the morning, hearing powerful words while I am running helps me think about what's happening today, what's happening this week or this month. How can I know that I can get through a difficult time? I can push through mantra that our students used. I model that myself. I believe in that particular aspect myself, that I know that I can push through. So having self-care. So for me, that would be running. And that was something that I do most mornings, whether it's running outside or if it's raining, then I'm on the elliptical and I like to listen to music to just really help me focus. Some people may do meditation or mindfulness. To me, that's my way. As an administrator, I am constantly on my feet. So, like sitting down just to talk about this for an hour is not something I'm used to. But I think that because I have that time every morning, I'm one of those early morning risers, and some people are not, which is fine. But I like to wake up in the morning when the world is calm, when nobody is up. You can see the stars in the sky. My dog and I, we go outside, and it's just a quiet time. And that time helps me reflect on what are some difficult situations that I have and how am I going to push through and work through those situations? And typically after a run, it helps me feel like I have a plan in place. Like I know, okay, I'm going to handle the situation by doing these three different action item steps. And so that helps me feel like I'm able to conquer anything, that I am the change that I wish to see in the world. It's a little plaque that I have in my office. I can see it from here, and it helps me know that I can make that happen. One of the questions about what I would say to a leader, a piece of advice would be to have some self care. I know it's very cliche, but it is important. The other thing that I would mention would be to lean on your support system, whether it's family or colleagues or other people who are going through that difficult time. Have those conversations. I think sometimes we tend to want to shy away from difficult conversations or feelings. But I know that every time that I've engaged in those conversations and open up, I immediately feel better because I've had that opportunity to just have someone listen to what I'm going through. I also think as a leader, being there and being present for those in your school community, because for me, my type of leadership that I have always resonated with, even from very early on when I was getting my master's, was the servant leadership. And so for me, it's about what are the needs of my community. And so I think, what kind of events do we have that are going to bring our community joy? And so that's a word that I've used a lot. What will bring us joy? So, yes, it might be stressful to plan numerous community events, but they are always worth it because it brings joy to our community. So, by being there for your school community and providing opportunities for joy, I feel that you can never go wrong, that it just really helps strengthen the bonds of community. So for a leader, I think it's really important to just be there for their community. I know that there are various different leadership styles and levels because I've been reading about those within my courses. I still really resonate with the idea of being a servant leader as well as being a transformational leader. And a lot of that is done through some of the things that I talked about earlier, looking at the words that you say, how the actions that you take to really support change for a school environment. And there are still, of course, continual change that is going to continue to happen. Just as we in education look at the results oriented cycle of inquiry, we know that life is like that as well, right? Life continually changes and continually moves. A couple weeks ago, we were in a principals meeting, and it was one of our first times really opening up about how we felt about all the different things happening in our district. And I raised my hand and I was like, it's a roller coaster. And for me personally, I don't like roller coasters because I don't really like the heights. But there's sometimes going to be highs, there are going to sometimes be lows, but we really need to hold on and be there for our community because we want to always anticipate the next step. So I think that's something else that I would tell a leader going through a tough time is always anticipate the next step. Think about the two different outcomes that can possibly happen and really try to plan and prepare. So for me as a leader, I planned both ways. I planned, what if our school does close down? What if our school doesn't close down? So I had two plans in place, which included what kind of resources and support I need for each plan. It included me talking and being transparent with my staff that I have these plans in place and that as a leader, I'm going to try to be the stability during the time of uncertainty. Those were all things that I would give any leader the opportunity to reflect and think about if they're going through a challenging time. It would be to lean on your support system, to be there for your staff, to try to create moments of joy, and to really anticipate and try to plan. So obviously, I am someone who really thinks a lot about the different circumstances and the conditions. And that reflection piece is really important. So I think you can't go wrong if you spend some time really reflecting on the heart of the issue and just making a plan to be there and support. And then sometimes, of course, there are times where the plan doesn't go the way you want it to and you have to adjust. But that's where, as administrators, as principals, then we think about going into that first responder mode. And I value our first responders. Captain Dahl was a pilot, the firefighters, the police officers in the community. I think of their work and how they go from being regular, normal levels to high emergency situations. And so when plans don't go the way you want, we sometimes have to switch modes. And so it's just being along for the ride. Even though I don't like roller coasters, I'm along for the ride. I think just part of working in a school system and working in education is that things are going to constantly change, and we have to be okay with that change.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Michelle, for being so generous with your time and your insights and for sharing your story that is very unique. And I think this must be the first time we've had this on the show. Really appreciate it. And for all of you listening, thanks for listening. I hope that this has inspired you in dealing with the tough times that you will face and that all leaders inevitably face. That's it today for the Engaging Leadership Show. Thanks for listening, and I hope that you have a great time building up again next year with the school, Michelle. This has been CT signing off. And that's all for the Engaging Leadership Show today. If these stories resonated with you at all, head over to engagingleadershipshow.com, all one word, where you can subscribe for free to receive more leadership stories and strategies every week. Also, at that link, you can access the archive of all the featured episodes we published in summary form. It's a veritable treasure trove of educational leadership wisdom distilled for your learning pleasure. Once again, the link is engagingleadershipshow.com. Sign up today to receive the next summary this very week. Until next time, keep leading with purpose and passion, and I'll see you in the next episode.